We are emotional beings, and we've lived in a period of time that we're emerging. Emotional intelligence is what is the game changer right now. We've come from a society that was bottling up emotions. Oh, it's not proper to cry, especially being a man. Like, you shouldn't be crying like that. Or even men and women, it's like, hey, let's have tea. It's tea time, and they'll bottle up their emotions and be proper.
If you're somebody beating yourself up because you lost your job, your business is in the tank, or personal life, whatever it is, how does somebody go from those kinds of feelings to being grateful?
Yeah. It's a great question. There's many paths. A couple. One, if you can remember how now is better than before. So sometimes reflecting at, and then someone might be listening to this and they're like, nothing's been worse than now. Like, my life's never been this bad. Okay. Then that won't work, right? So, but for some people, they can actually look and say, oh, wow, I am further along than I was. Okay, great. So now we can reflect and be grateful for this moment. When it's not better and it's horrible, and we've had moments, I've had many ups and downs in my life, then a little shout out to one of my friends, Tommy Voris. When him and I were hanging out a lot, we had the 5-minute wallow. And the 5-minute wallow was that if I'm having a bad moment, to not let that moment take my whole life. And what we did is we got a journal or a piece of paper, whatever you do, or if you need to type on your phone, whatever you do, and you set a timer for 5 minutes and you write down everything you're pissed off about, everything that you're upset or sad, whatever. You just put your feelings down, because I think part of it, Jovanni, is that people don't allow themselves to express their feelings. And then that bottled upness just feels trapped. And part of what I've learned from some other people to name off, like Michael Singer, goes by Mickey Singer, the surrender experiment, the untethered soul. The thing about what is an untethered soul? A trapped soul is one that's stuck and not allowing emotion to pass. We are emotional beings, and we've lived in a period of time that we're emerging. Emotional intelligence is what is the game changer right now. We've come from a society that was bottling up emotions. Oh, it's not proper to cry, especially being a man. Like, you shouldn't be crying like that. Or even men and women, it's like, hey, let's have tea. It's tea time, and they'll bottle up their emotions and be proper, right? And it could be anywhere in the world, and we don't allow our emotions. And I've seen this in many cultures. And what I'm telling you is, let them gush. Because as Michael Singer would say, if you have a thorn in your side and it hurts, and you can say, okay, it doesn't hurt if I don't touch it. Okay, so then you can do it. But then if someone bumps into you or they try to give you a hug, don't hug me. Now you're not going to hug anyone. And then, other people bumped into me by accident. So now I live in this bubble, and I walk around in this bubble so no one can touch that hurt part. And then now I have to modify the doors in my house because I can't walk around with the bubble. So now you modify your house, you modify all these things. So we start adding on layers onto our life. This goes back to the layers, Jovanni, and trying to modify the world to fit around what we're dealing with, instead of actually dealing with the core issue, which is we have a thorn in our side. And if we actually would just remove that, no matter how much it hurts, let that out, cry if you have to, and let it go. So back to the journal, and this could be different for all of you. This is why it's so important to have friends, which is another thing that we've went away from. I remember, it was kind of a joke, like in the 50s and 60s, and I think even up into the 80s, a lot of guys would have bowling night. They would all go bowling. Those things I used to laugh about and make fun of that. But you know what? They had something, because then they can go talk to their buddies and let some of that stuff out, and we can call each other on our stuff and be like, hey, you got to let that go, or whatever. And we don't have that. So for right now, especially with where we are and a lot of people still sheltering in place, grabbing the piece of paper, writing down how you feel, writing down all the things you are, and put it on a timer. Because if you go past 5 minutes, like at the beginning when I first started doing this, I would have more to write about. then as I did this as a practice, there were times as I've done this more and more that I would be done and I'd have like 2 minutes left. And I'd be like, oh, now what do I do? So the whole idea, to be very straightforward, get a thing, set a timer for 5 minutes, write down all the things you're upset about. And then when the timer goes off, draw a line on the paper and say, now what would I like? And then write that down. Write that down. Write down what would you like? So coming back to Carl Buchheit, similar thing. I had done this 5-minute wallow way before I met Carl, but Carl has it in a different way. He says, a lot of life is OMG, WTF, and then now what would I like? And so kind of 5-minute wallow is an overlap with that too, because that 5 minutes is writing down the, oh my gosh, this just happened. Oh my gosh, what the WTF, da, 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 da. You get all that pissed off now. And then you draw the line and you say, what would I like? What would I like? And then come to that. And then in the gratitude, the last part to this is then write down what you're grateful for in that moment. And it might be just the breath that you're taking. It might be that you still have a house. It might be that you just bought groceries. There's times in my life where I was putting fuel in my car and I had to stop. I couldn't even fill the tank so I could have enough money to buy food. I've been there. And then I've been other times where I'm like, oh, did they charge me? I don't see it. Oh yeah, there it is. I didn't notice that it came out of my account. So I've had both sides of that in life. And I've had it both ways where I've had that wealth and then lost it, so I've seen it both ways more than once in my life, unfortunately. And also I'm grateful for that, Jovanni, because at the time I wasn't, I'll tell you, at the time I wasn't, but now I'm like, oh my gosh, I needed those lessons. I needed them.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned, OWOW is what Carl calls it, the acronym. That's helped me a lot. So it's OMG, WTF, okay. And I think that's the biggest part people kind of brush over is the okay. And it's the okay of like, it's like, okay, it happened. Like, now what? Like what? And then what would I like? Like those are the two big people, because everybody goes through, right? Everybody goes through OMG automatically. We go through what the WTF. And then a lot of people just skip the last two, either saying okay and they just hold on to it, and or they don't ask what they would like instead. And those are two very key things. And when I first learned about that, man, I was going around like telling everybody who would listen to me, like, hey, do you know this new acronym I just learned? So let me tell you about this. And like it just because like it helped me, because I would go and it's both for both what we perceive as negative and good things, right? We go through those 4 stages no matter what, or we go the first 2 stages, but learning the second 2, the okay and what would I like, those are huge. And I would agree with you that just starting with something like small, even just being like, there's many times when I wake up, I do my gratitude kind of weird. Like I call it the in-between, where you're not fully awake, but you're not really sleeping. Like you're aware, but you're still like, I call it the in-between. And so a lot of times when I'm in the in-between, I just say, I'm like, thank you for this bed. Thank you for like having blanket, right? Thank you for like this shelter. And because sometimes, we live in America. We have so much stuff and we forget like how blessed and how blessed we are to have all of these things.
Hey there, I want to give you something really big. It's called Clear Path to Customers. It's the way that we get the right language to get the right client. I like to call them your wow clients, so that you can have more results, more revenue, more raving fans, and more referrals. And I want to give this to you absolutely free. And all you have to do is go to stevenapolitan.com to check it out, or you can look at the description here. We'll put the details there. As always, remember, choose gratitude and create freedom.